Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today we have a little Packers-Bears recap here. Just got done with the game, and I think it went pretty much as expected. Jeff, what do you say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Green Bay wins big against Chicago. Chicago struggles through the air and on the land. And once again, Aaron Rodgers is the man with 4 touchdowns. He spread the ball around, and Jordy Nelson was obviously the benefactor of 2 of those touchdowns, so solidifying him as a top 10 option once again. So, I mean, it was a very straightforward game.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost exactly like you had thought it would go. Blowout win by the Packers. Rodgers did well. Nelson did well. But, I mean, even Jordan Howard for Chicago wasn't a good game, but he's able to get that touchdown and make himself valuable. So, it's good at least for you. If this is the worst Howard gets, I think you're pretty, it's a pretty safe option going forward.
Yeah, and we had mentioned it. It reminds me a lot of the first game Gurley had, where we're like, if this is the worst it gets, you can still move forward with him. I mean, 2.9 yards on average for 18 carries, only 53 yards. But obviously he got that touchdown. Whether or not it was meaningless, it means nothing to me. So, I'll take the points and I'll thank him, even though he's on such a bad offense at the moment.
But I would say, there's 2 big stories in this game injury-wise. First off, Ty Montgomery looks like he's broken ribs here. Who knows how long he'll be out? I mean, some people can play through broken ribs. As a running back, I think that's kind of a difficult thing. So, I don't know what you're going to do with that. We'll wait and see. And then his backup, Jamal Williams, gets a knee injury. And so it's down to Aaron Jones now. And are you going to be putting a big waiver claim in for Aaron Jones next week?
He definitely will be worth the waiver pickup. I probably won't go overly huge because I really want to see how long Montgomery's going to be out, because I don't think Aaron Jones is anything spectacular by any means, and they don't run the ball like many other teams do. And I think what this game showed me is how they're going to move forward without Montgomery. And what that was 4 touchdowns within the 10-yard line for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, they look deadly within the 10. They have crossing routes. People are getting picked by wide receivers. And, the only thing really Bennett is good at now is, kind of getting in people's way so Jordy and those guys can get open for a touchdown. So there's a lot of trickery around that, and they, did a lot of crossing patterns. And Aaron Rodgers just, within that red zone just tore Chicago up. So there's no real reason for Aaron Jones to get a lot of carries, and even around the goal line. So he did get a touchdown today, so I can't completely dismiss him. But I'm very hesitant on thinking how large of a role he's actually going to have for the Packers. And this is assuming that at some point Montgomery can come back as well. So even if he gets a handful of games, I don't expect too much out of the guy. I mean, do you think I'm off base, or what are you thinking?
No, not at all. I've already had questions come in about people talking about starting Aaron Jones next week. And I think it's crazy. We've seen what the Packers will do when they don't really have a true running back. And they're just going to pass the ball. It's Aaron Rodgers is going to pass the ball even more. And they're not going to force something if they don't have the player to do it. I mean, Aaron Jones was their 3rd-string running back for a reason. He looked fine tonight, but he was 3rd-string running back. I can't trust it.
Actually, in a weird way, I think the bigger news, after you get past the fact that Montgomery got broken ribs, and I don't know how long that's going to take him, like you said, that vicious hit on Devontae Adams.
Yep.
First of all, that's probably going to come up with a suspension for the Chicago's defensive guy. Was it however you say his name?
Yeah, Trevathan.
I can't imagine a world where he doesn't get suspended for that, especially the emphasis the NFL is putting on protecting players. It was really, really, really bad. But he was doing very good. Obviously, he had the short catch for a touchdown. He only had a couple catches, But in his absence, assuming he's not going to be back for next game, this is just me personally watching that hit, and I couldn't imagine a world where he's okay in a week. I got to think that Geronimo Allison will get another shot, and he did so well last game that all of a sudden, is Allison worth the pickup? I think he's a very interesting waiver for this week. I don't know how many Davante Adams will miss, probably not a whole lot. But I think Allison will be a great play next week.
Yeah, and he did nothing tonight, but
yeah, he was still
as soon as he steps into that third wide receiver role, we've seen what he's done already. It should increase, especially if they have no run game. They're going to have to pass it all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
So, definitely can see him being an ad.
Yep.
And then Randall Cobb's value probably just goes up even more. He had an all right game, but he got a touchdown out of it. So if you played him, it was worthwhile.
Yeah,
it's just
the way they can't run the ball.
Pretty
much every wide receiver is going to be worth their weight in gold, because if you're going to get 3 to 4 touchdowns a game, which with Green Bay, that's kind of what I expect. I think the most likely scenario is all those are going to come through the air, and especially Jordy's going to get his. There's no doubt about it. So the next one down is going to be Cobb now instead of Adams, which already proved he can get in the end zone even with Adams on the field. And then you put someone like Geronimo Allison in there who had 122 yards the game prior. I mean, he can be that wide receiver that people aren't really banking on. So I like him sliding in there and getting some mismatches.
Yeah, because you can probably pick him up for about nothing.
Yeah, and don't go too crazy on it, because I really don't think he's gonna. I expect Davante Adams to be back. I don't know what his injuries are. I assume it's just gonna be a concussion, and probably a very, very sore individual for the next week. But my guess is he'll miss a week and then he'll be back. But it's still a good player for someone that needs a wide receiver like me. Now that Davante Adams got just lit up. And
then on the Bears side, they still have no wide receivers that you are going to play at all.
No, I mean
maybe Kendall Wright, but if you're in a really desperate situation, but he 4 for 51 for 1 touchdown, and that's about what I think his ceiling is. I'm staying away unless Trubisky gets the job and Trubisky can play.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Kendall Wright, I mean, he did. He looked fine. Deontay Thompson looked all right. But the truth is, I don't like anyone on that team. Tariq Cohen kind of came back down to earth. I thought, especially in a game like this that they were trailing, I thought maybe they would try to use him a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't really go away from Jordan Howard too much. So it makes me feel a little bit better about Howard, worse about Cohen, worse about Chicago in general. And then the last thing, my takeaway, besides for Aaron Rodgers just being the man, is, we try to keep giving Martellus Bennett the benefit of the doubt as a tight end that could possibly turn into something. And he did have 6 receptions, so in a PPR, he was kind of a good play for a tight end. But once again, I mean, you have 4 touchdowns through the air, and, they're not really even looking at him. It just makes me think that, once again, a big athletic tight end is just, it doesn't matter how good you are. Green Bay's offense just doesn't really use them.
I mean, he actually led the team in receiving tonight, which is crazy. I mean, receptions, but he's not getting any yards. They're not looking for him in the end zone. And so because of that, he's not valuable.
He's only getting 6.5 yards per catch.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's ugly.
And yeah, so in standard scoring, you almost got 4 points.
Yeah. This was our worry.
Yeah.
I mean, people would talk about throwing Bennett in there. He's just going to be great for Rodgers, but we've known Rodgers doesn't necessarily look for the tight end, and I don't think that's changing.
No, and especially how well he did in the red zone without throwing it to the tight end. I mean, it was Chicago, and Chicago looked pretty pitiful at times. Like, Jordy Nelson just was wide open in the corner of the end zone.
God, yeah.
I mean, they were so creative in the red zone that you don't need them. I mean, Davante Adams won't be there, but Geronimo Allison can step right in. I don't see it getting too much better for Bennett, to be honest.
Yep. I don't either. And, I mean, this offense is going to be great. Nelson and Cobb are going to be good. So, to me, it doesn't even matter who's there going forward as long as Nelson's there and at least a combination of Cobb or Adams. And those guys are going to get the touchdowns. So, and the Aaron Jones thing, I'm just thinking about this again, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get him in any league of mine because he's going to go for a big total or somebody's going to waste that number 1 claim or spend big money on him. And I would urge caution. It's just, I don't think it. I mean, what did James Starks ever do when he was the starting running back there at times? Why is Aaron Jones better than that?
Yeah, exactly. And really, I don't really remember the last time that Green Bay had a dominant running back that I could count on in fantasy. Just because, at least when Aaron Rodgers has been there, because they just pass it so damn much.
Yep.
So nothing against Aaron Jones, but he's a rookie. He's on a better passing offense, and even Ty Montgomery, the fact that he was a converted wide receiver really helped him out. But at the same time, he doesn't get an extreme amount of carries by any means. He does it through just being efficient. Yep. So if you're not thinking that Aaron Jones is a kind of a workhorse or some extreme talent, I don't see how you could justify the huge claim as you know that he's probably just going to nickel and dime his way down the field and get you a handful of points at best.
Yeah, and you're just trying to get lucky with a touchdown. And I think there's going to be a lot of disappointed people.
Like tonight.
If they spend a lot of money on the free agent auction on him. So, if they ask me the question, I'm going to say stay away.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the QB situation in Chicago? Do you think that Glennon is pretty much wrapping up his starting stint in Chicago? Do you think Trubisky is on the short list of getting called up, or do you think that they're going to stick with Glennon for a while, just knowing that they want to give the rookie time to grow?
It feels like they're just going to keep waiting. I think they should make a change. I mean, they're not going anywhere. They're not a contender. Why wouldn't you just see what you have in Trubisky?
True, but I mean, you wonder if they're scared to throw him in there too early and get him kind of banged up. I mean, you think that maybe it's better to keep him off the field for a year?
It's hard to say. I mean, we've seen it go both ways, really. We've seen people succeed after sitting for a year or two, and we've seen them succeed right away, but we've seen it go the other way, too. So it's really case by case, but, I mean, the Chicago team is just interesting. They beat the Steelers last week. They almost beat the Falcons in week 1, and then they do like this. It just, I don't know what those 2 weeks were where they actually played well against good teams, but Glennon is just he doesn't look good. I don't think he's going to make any of these players valuable either. So from like a fantasy perspective, you want Trubisky because maybe there's something there. We know it's not happening with Glennon.
Yeah, and the strange thing with Glennon, I mean, his numbers, they definitely don't look spectacular, but you try to figure out what exactly Packers did in order to throw him off so much, because he was 21 for 33 for 218 yards, which is a pitiful average. And then you have 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and he only took 1 sack. So, I don't, usually I don't think of Green Bay as a real strong defensive team, but obviously they did enough to, and you wonder if it's a wide receiver thing. Maybe they know that Glennon is working with, a very lackluster bunch of wide receivers, and
Kendall,
they know Trubisky will. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty brutal to throw Glennon in there and expect him to do a whole lot. So I'm wondering if they're kind of like letting him take the brunt.
That's
and then
possible.
Throwing Trubisky in there maybe at the end of the year to get a few reps.
Yeah, why throw Trubisky out there when he has basically no chance to succeed? I'd like to see him, though. I guess that's more selfish reasons. I want to see if the guy can play.
On the other end of it, too, though, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, looking at his numbers, he had 4 touchdowns. So, you just immediately think he's going to have a ton of yards and everything. He really didn't.
No.
He was only 18 for 26, 179 yards. So his average wasn't that much better than Glennon's, but he had the 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's what he's going to do, though. He's going to at least get the touchdowns. The yardage is that's an odd one, though. 179 yards.
It's just a very weird one.
The way the game went, I guess. They got some short fields. It's an odd thing to look at and see, though. But he still gets 31.1 if you're playing in 6-point, passing touchdown league.
Yeah, that's why it's so lovely to have Aaron Rodgers, man. He is so freaking good.
It is kind of ridiculous. And then I think that's about it, though. There's not nearly as exciting as last week.
No. But, once again, it's good to see these kind of develop a little more. This one was, like we said, straightforward, but at least you find a little more out about the Howard Cohen situation. Yep. You find a little out about the Green Bay. Well, the injuries on Green Bay's rushing attack is definitely will shake things up. And then obviously the wide receiver position, once again, it solidified the pecking order. So it's kind of just one step closer to being a little more certain of ourselves next week when we start making ranks again.
Yep. And yeah, I think you can play Jordan Howard without too much worry. You know, I'm not going to probably ever put him back in my top 10 this year, but he's definitely a top 20 option, and he's a running back too going forward.
Yeah, exactly. I think he'll be I think against a poor defense, he'll probably be a high-end running back 2. And against a good one, he's a low-end running back 2, possibly a running back 3. But it's very difficult to set him just because you know he has such a good chance of getting a touchdown.
Yep, no, I agree. I wish the team was a little bit better, because that's the only thing I think holding them back. I mean, I haven't thought Howard is a great running back, but he's good enough if he was on a better team. It's just the team is going to have some situations where he doesn't do anything just because they were that bad.
Yeah, I mean, tonight was very close. If he didn't have the touchdown, it would have been a pretty bad performance.
But it's good to see he can do this, and they kept him in the game when they were down. I guess, the worry was it would be just Cohen, but it wasn't tonight, so that's good to see for Howard owners.
Yeah, that was definitely a big test.
Well, we'll be back, Sunday night? We'll go through the recap of all the Week 4 games. Hopefully there's some interesting matchups this week again like last week and have some big performances. We'll talk to you guys then.